Hey, I'd like to welcome Tony Pearson together with film director Andrew Menjivar today. How are you both going?
Doing good.
I'm doing
Thank you. Thanks for having
great.
me on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Uh, Absolutely. Tony is one of the most standout, respected bodybuilding legends from the 70s and 80s and even beyond. And we're here today with Andrew to discuss both his book and recent documentary titled Driven. So, Andrew, can you just kick us off and give us some backstory of how you became involved with the project, please?
All right. Well, it started back in 2020. I believe Tony had just come out with his memoir, and it was the pandemic, so no work was happening. But Tony wanted an audiobook version of Driven, and so he was training a mutual friend of ours, and that mutual friend connected us, and we're like, okay, we can produce an audiobook for you. That's easy. But I feel like we should also buy your book and like read it so we know what we're getting into. And man, every single chapter of that book, it reads like a scene out of a movie. It is incredible. I highly, highly recommend it to anyone that wants to kind of fill in the cracks of the documentary, because it's an incredible story. Not just seeing Tony go through the whole thing, but actually reading his own words. It's a pretty incredible story. So I got involved that way. That's how I met Tony, and that's how the whole documentary actually got started when I caught whim that he was going to go on stage one last time in Las Vegas. And once I heard that, I gathered up all the camera equipment that I had, and I just on a whim drove out to Vegas, not knowing what I was going to do with the footage, what it was going to become, but it just felt like something that was important and needed to be documented. And so I packed up and I went to Vegas. That's when I met Tony for the very first time, and we shot I shot almost what was like a little mini documentary at the time. I actually put together a tiny 10-minute documentary, like a proof of concept kind of a thing, of what this could be. And I showed Tony that proof of concept. And I think some tears were shed because it was so good. And from that point on, it's like, all right, let's do the full thing. Let's actually adapt the full book into a documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a yeah. Sorry, go on, Tony.
yeah, you said I kind of wrote the book kind of in that way with that frame of mind that it's like a movie. I take you from scene to scene. And I said, well, the actor don't have to say very much because I just told him how he should say his lines and how he should do this. I'm not a writer, but I was writing my story and it was very emotional to write the story too. So I want to talk about that a little bit later. It's it was shocking. It was a roller coaster ride to write that. And it took me 40 years to make that decision to write a book.
Yeah, it's amazing. I bought both the book and the audio, and each one has its own kind of nuance and subtle resonance and differences. But the book in itself is so compelling, like Andrew says, and it plays out like a movie just because of the brutality. You just want to keep reading on to find out what happens next. As there's that old saying that hard times create strong men. But do you often reflect that if you didn't have those brutal experiences that you talked about in your book growing up, that Tony Pearson's life story might totally be a different thing?
Yes, for sure. I don't know where I would be. I mean, because bodybuilding became my life. Growing up in Memphis and without mom, without a dad, and living in the poor Memphis, southern part of Memphis, and it was just chaos. I have no idea what I would have done. When I graduated from high school, I go, what am I going to do? I'm not going to go to college. I don't have any money. I'm poor. I don't really have a real home. So what am I going to do? And luckily for bodybuilding, that gave me some direction. It gave me something to fall back on, to embrace. And then once you start with it, you get hooked. So, I mean, you read the book, so you know how I got to the wrestling and then to George Turner's gym. And, you know, you said these things that happen for a reason, or impossible things to happen. I think God has a lot to do with this. That, the universe is working in my favor, because once I got to St. Louis, I met the great Muhammad Ali. So how could these things happen? Being in the right place at the right time. So many times I was writing this book, and I said, this can't be true, because I was writing it so fast. It wasn't me writing. I'm not a writer, but I couldn't get it on the paper fast enough. So I met Muhammad Ali, and this is the greatest man I have ever seen in my life, coming from deep South, poor, Memphis. And he was wearing a two-piece suit, and he was his massive shoulders. He was a champ at the time. So I shake his hand. I'm running next to him, and he goes inside to school, the high school, to give a speech to the kids. And that was the day I said, I want to take up sports. Well, I'm too short and I'm too slow. I can't run. And I'm a tiny little kid. But I want to participate. But I was strong. I was very strong for such a little kid. And so I made the wrestling team. And second season in, I think I injured my knee pretty bad. The hand operation. And my coach said, the doctor said, go to your gym and rehab your knee. This is 1974. So we're going way back. So I'll go to the weight room every day, and I would try to rehab my leg, like he said. And of course, you're going to try to pump up your biceps or something. You got to feel this. And the other kids are working out there. So I wouldn't go to lunch every day. I go to the weight room. And within about 6 to 8 weeks, I had gained some muscle size. It's like shocking. My legs were better. And then my wrestling coach came in one day. He goes, you want to go to a real gym today? I said, of course. And I was a kid, 16 years old, 15, 16. So he takes me to George Turner's gym. George Turner is like iconic for the state of Missouri. He had the best gym in the state. And if you want to be a bodybuilder, that's what you needed to be. But this was not planned. I got to St. Louis because of my auntie. I blew my knee out. I go to George Turner. He could have taken me to any gym in town. But no, it was George Turner, the right gym to be in. So everything that happened just flowed right into place. I didn't have a plan. I had no plan, and I didn't talk back to George, because George is a very mean guy. But he's very serious, and he pushed me. I gained like 20, 25 pounds of muscle, and my legs were weak. Everybody had strong body parts, and some people got weak body parts. Luckily, I have good structure of my physique. I'm 5'8", small hips, small waist, broad shoulders, but no muscles. So I had to pack on some muscle. So it was squatting. You read the book like 10 sets of 10, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And George would stand there and count the reps for you. I mean, he was a no-nonsense type of guy. And I never said no to George. I was terrified. He was ex-Marine. I was terrified of this guy. I'm just a kid coming from my auntie being tortured and abused, and now going to this crazy man. What am I going to do? I just did what he told me to do. And then my legs grew, and then I started pumping up the biceps a little bit. And that just pulled me in. The first time I saw a bodybuilder on stage, back in those days, in the mid-'70s, bodybuilding was not for, people go, why would you want to lift weights? I saw my dad once. He goes, why don't you stop lifting weights and get a real job? And the kids made fun of me. Hey, Hercules, but I was, like I said, I was hooked. And so George trained me within about 8 or 9 months. I said, George, I'm going to go to California. I want to move to California. And he just lost it. He said, no way. If you want to be a bodybuilder, you had to go to California. It's not going to be in St. Louis. It's not going to be in Memphis. You got to go west as far as you can get. So he realized that, because, Samir Benute was trained out of his gym, Ken Waller, Dave Johns, Phil Williams. There's about 4 or 5 guys had made their way to California. And George knew that one day I would be going, because if that's the dream that you have, then you have to go west. And I had no fear. I had no fear. I look back now and go, was I crazy? But when you're young, 16, 17, you don't know any better. And I had a friend who went to California with me, and we got on the bus, the one-way ticket. I sold my graduation clothes, took it back to the store to get the money, take the bus to California. So we got on the bus, we got downtown LA. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's chaotic. especially coming from St. Louis. St. Louis, we was in the suburbs. It was quiet, nice homes, and my school was really nice, beautiful. And then downtown LA, you get off the bus, it was just chaotic, noisy, dirty, filthy, buildings, skyscrapers. And my friend says, I can't take this anymore. My mom's going to send me a ticket and I'm going home. And I said, well, you go, I'm staying. This is it. I said, I said, I'm not going back. This is it. Go back to what? That's what I said. So now I'm stuck in the hotel. He's gone. And for 10 days, I couldn't figure out. I look back at what was I thinking? You're not thinking when you're that age. For 10 days, I was sitting in a hotel and then I ran out of money. I had $10 left. I said, the next bus that comes along, I'm going to take that bus. And wherever it takes me, I'll get on it. That's where we're going to go. What are the chances of getting on the right bus, going to the right place? But it took 10 days for the bus to arrive. Now I look back and said, oh, that was a master plan. Because downtown LA, you can take a bus to Pasadena, the Valley, you name it, bus goes all over. But that was the right, it went to Beverly Hills in the direction to Muscle Beach. So that's how I made my way to Muscle Beach. LA was just paradise. I mean, coming from, see palm trees and the beach and the girls. And I said, man, this is paradise. I'm never going to leave this place. I made it to heaven. I'm sitting on the Santa Monica Pier, looking at the ocean, and the beach is just packed with people. So, oh man, this is really fun. And the people in California at the time just very cool. The Californians laid back attitude, and I just kind of blend right in. I mean, it was so much fun. And then I made my way to the original Gold's Gym from Pumping Iron, the movie. And I walked into the gym one day, and I went and sat in the corner. It was a very small gym. It was not in the gym. It was just the carpet was torn and this and that. No music, and all the champions were there except for Arnold. Frank Zane was there. Joe Weider was there training, taking pictures of Frank Zane and Ken Waller, Robbie Robinson, Manuel Perry. I mean, the list just goes on. And I'm sitting there watching these guys. Man, was I in heaven. Because I knew Arnold because back in the 70s, he was on Wide World of Sports quite often. I mean, bodybuilding being on television was a big deal in this country at that time. So I knew him and I knew Robbie. I knew Zane, I knew Joe Weider. But for 30 minutes, I'm sitting there watching these guys and no one was talking. No one's drinking water. I mean, it was just an all out training sessions for everybody. And Arnold, so the manager of the gym looks at me. He says, "Get over here, kid." I go to his desk. He goes, "What are you doing sitting in the corner over there?" I said, "Well, I just wanted to see the guys, see the gym." And I says, "Arnold here?" He said, "Well, he was here a couple hours ago. You want to buy a membership?" I said, "No, I don't have any money." He says, "Well, you're going to have to leave." So he escorted me to the door. But from watching those guys for that half an hour, I realized what it takes and what it's going to take. Growing up, I had a very hard, tough childhood, chopping down trees and pulling logs and carrying wood. And so I knew what hard work meant. But this was fun. This is going to be fun work. So, but I knew, I got an idea. I said to myself, when leaving that gym, if I trained hard enough, maybe one day I could look like those guys. That's what I said. So that's how.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and when I was reading your book, I was also sort of thinking that if there was ever a story to encapsulate the thought of things were supposed to happen for a reason, it's definitely your book. Andrew, when I first picked up Tony's book, I thought it was going to be another kind of cliched bodybuilding story. And I can imagine that a lot of your non-bodybuilding audience might also have thought the same way. So you mentioned before that you wanted to make the film accessible to everybody, not just bodybuilders. And I thought it was great how you explained the sport of bodybuilding without it getting in the way of the actual focus of the movie. So how's the non-bodybuilding audience responded to the movie Driven? And did people find their expectations subverted by what they watched?
Thank you for that observation. That's exactly where I was coming from because I actually didn't know anything about the sport of bodybuilding going into it. And so where that could have been a disadvantage, I actually used to an advantage where I would go, okay, isn't necessarily a bodybuilding story. This is a human story. This is Tony growing up. And yes, bodybuilding is a huge part of that story, but there's a lot more. This is really about getting into the psyche of Tony, the person, and how he became who he became. He became a bodybuilder, so there's a big part of that being in the story, but there's so much more to it. And in order to do that, I need to learn myself what this world of bodybuilding is. Me and Tony would have weekly phone calls every, for the last 2-3 years, just so I could pick his brain and understand the sport of bodybuilding. Just for reference, my knowledge before going into this production was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Literally nothing else. That was it. That was bodybuilding to me. And so what I wanted was this story to be accessible to everyone else who their knowledge was literally just Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that was it. I remember about 2 years ago, we had a test audience of people. We had a cut of the film, and we wanted to make sure that things were working, that the story was accessible. It was easily understood by people who didn't know bodybuilding. And I remember we got a really, really great, diverse set of people for this test audience. Young people, mid-age people, older folk, people who knew bodybuilding, people who didn't know bodybuilding, people of all kinds of different backgrounds, just to see if we were on the right path. And the overall feedback that we got was that it was very, very well received, very well liked. And I think one of my producers, Teresa, one of her friends was a lawyer who was in that test audience. And she told me that that friend came up to her right after and said, "Hey, I love this story. I completely loved everything about this film. I think all the bodybuilders and fitness people are going to love it too." To me, this is where I picked up on something. Yes, okay, builders are going to want to see it, all that. That's great. I know that's the audience. But you, the lawyer who didn't know that this was the film that you wanted to see, you stuck around for a whole hour and a half and you fell in love with the story. That means that I'm getting something. I'm over transcending past this idea of it's just another bodybuilding documentary. It is accessible. And so, yes, it's kind of had that, once you get over the idea that, oh, it looks like a bodybuilding film, but once you get past that, you really pick up a lot more. It's a lot more. It's a little bit of history, with Gold's Gym and Muscle Beach, and it's a little bit of bodybuilding, but it's a lot of Tony and a lot of this human story. It's really a survival story, kind of reflected the same way in his book. So the response has been very, very positive, even from people that have nothing to do with the world of bodybuilding or the sport or anything. They can pick this film up and just fall in love with Tony, actually.
So what preconceptions of the bodybuilding world did you have before you started the film? And did any of your assumptions about bodybuilding change after you had dived into the niche of the subculture?
This one's an interesting question. So, like I mentioned, my knowledge of bodybuilding literally stopped at Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was it for me. I didn't know anything more than that. But as I actually started to go on this journey, let me tell you, I picked up a ton of stuff. I started doing a little bit. You know how there are method actors? I went a little method directing on this one, where I remember on some of the days, Tony would say, on competition days, you don't eat anything, you don't drink water, you don't do anything because you want to be as lean and as cut as you were. I wasn't eating anything, I wasn't drinking anything, and I was constantly holding this 13, 14 pound camera with me for 13, 14 hour days. And by the end of it, I was like, I think I had lost actually 80 pounds of my own body weight just shooting this entire documentary myself. So I picked up a lot on, the way bodybuilders, how they diet, how they put their body through so much strain. And ultimately, that's a big thing that we go over in the documentary is, you know, there is kind of a consequence if you don't take care of yourself. And that is one thing that I also learned myself. If I don't take care of myself, I'm going to hurt myself literally just holding this camera, being bent over, trying to get the correct angle, trying to get this, trying to get that. It's, I picked up a lot from Tony. I feel like I really connected with Tony on that kind of a level where it's like, we are in two different worlds and yet we are doing the exact same thing together. We are both driven to the point where we can actually hurt ourselves.
And it speaks to Tony's ability as a trainer that just being around him, you lost, so much weight. So I found that quite funny. I was going to ask you, Tony, you mentioned about all these serendipitous moments and these people that you met along the way that helped you get to the next level. I was particularly impressed at Arnold at his selflessness about how he noticed you from the crowd of weightlifters and bodybuilders there. And he connected with Joe Weider and gave you, again, the inspiration and the motivation to continue in your journey with his kind words. But who do you credit as being your biggest help when you first moved to California in getting established and successful in the world of bodybuilding?
When I first got there, I was homeless. I didn't have money, so it wasn't let's go bodybuilding right away. I was trying to survive. When am I going? My next meal, where's it going to come from? So I had a couple of friends. One guy his name is Kent. He was the manager of the gym. So he made sure that I was able to eat something, at least one meal a day. And I was sleeping behind a church for a while. Um, and then a bunch of the guys, they would do security work at nights, and we work all the concerts in town. So you work, 8, 10 hours a night, and then you wake up in the morning, try to hit the gym. So I think this guy really helped me a lot, just to get me in the right direction, make sure I'm eating, not sleeping on the ground anymore. So yeah, there's always some people. There's always someone in your life helping you. You're not getting to the top all by yourself. It's always somebody there's a helping hand. As you read the book, you can see there's a lot of people help me along the way.
Yeah.
But still, you got to be focused and determined and have a dream. So I went to California with a dream. I just want to be can I achieve that a dream? I'm not sure, but I'm going to try. I'm going to do everything that I can. So that's what got me started. And then I started competing at the local shows. I won Mr. Los Angeles and once the 2 national shows, the Junior Mr. America and Mr. USA. So I mean, that's how you have to step by step. In those days, you had to win all those shows to turn pro. So you start on the local level, and then you win the state California, won Mr. California, and Junior National, both those shows. And then I won Mr. America, step by step by step. So after winning Mr. America, and when it was turned pro, I won Mr. World. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of homework. You don't just jump from show to show. You have to earn your keep. So yeah, there's a lot of people who helped me in LA when I arrived. And Arnold, I think he was a big inspiration. Muhammad Ali motivated me to find the sport that I want to get involved. But Arnold himself said, "This is the greatest bodybuilder on the planet Earth," 1976. And that what he said to me, it stuck with me. It resonated with me that you can be a champion. You can do this if you work hard enough. If you're determined to do this. And he says, "I've been watching you for months," which means I'm at the beach working out. It's like 120 degrees on Muscle Beach, and I'm squatting. He says, "You've been training your legs really hard. I'm watching your exercise." He took me through a workout. We did chest and triceps. And I go, why do we do chest and triceps? And I realized I didn't have any chest or triceps. So he saw the weak body parts. So he's trying to give me some pointers on that. And he wrote down Joe Weider's phone number and address and said, "Tell Joe I sent you. going to do an article for the magazines. I was like, wow, you know, this is this age. I mean, Muscle and Fitness was everything. Muscle Builder. If you're in that magazine, you're king. So I go to see Joe. You know what happens in that situation. So we really want to talk about that. But Arnold was a big inspiration because he made me start to focus more on what I needed to do. You're in California, you're at the beach, you're working out in the pit. Now what are you going to do? So my first contest I won was Mr. Venice Beach. So that was the start. But I did something really stupid and crazy. I won Mr. Venice Beach, and you thought I had won Mr. Olympia. Because I told my friends, I'm going to be Mr. America in 2 years. You know, when you're 19 years old, you know, full of yourself. And they start laughing. Sure, okay, calm down, champ. Mr. Venice Beach. But within 2 years, I won the show, Mr. America. So you gotta voice it out loud and follow that dream. Just follow the dream. Just don't quit. Just don't listen to the naysayers. Just do your work. Train. It's a lot of work, but I was enjoying the work. I was having fun.
Can you talk a little bit about your training briefly, Tony? Because a lot of people have asked. There was one question there about, obviously, about your arms. Somebody asked about how you developed the vacuum over time. Did you use pullovers to help with that? Because it seems to me you were very high volume, high frequency, short rest periods, similar to Serge Nubret and Bill Grant.
Yeah, I would train with Robbie Robinson the most. You know who that is, right? Robbie
Yeah.
Robinson. So yeah, I was at the gym one day and I just won the Mr. American. I saw him at the gym every day. I wouldn't dare go near the guy. He was very serious about his workout. And he came, I heard this voice behind me, says, TP, get to work. You ain't get shit. And he turned and walked away in a very deep voice. And I turned and looked and said, oh man, he's watching me. So I got the opportunity to train with him. And it was very, very intense. This guy, it's like a machine. He was an ex-football player, ex-track and field star. So he's very athletic. But his training was torturous. But I was, like I said, I was enjoying it. We would do very little rest between sets. And the reps were from 8 to 10 reps per set. And the amount of rest you're getting is very small. I mean, 30 seconds, if that. Because the moment he puts the weight down, you're picking the weight up. So the intensity level of the workouts, what takes you out, is not. We're very strong. I can handle the same weight he's handling, but the intensity, you're not getting your breath. You can't catch your breath. And that's what he wants. That's what he wanted, to take you to that level. And he goes, you can't drink water. It's okay. You can drink all the water you want when we're done. I mean, this guy was serious. But I understood instinctively. I knew this is what it takes. And I watch him every day. I watch him change his body. The favorite exercise that we always did was preacher curls for the biceps. If you see that my original picture, I have tiny, nice little biceps, but they grew after that. A lot of preacher, standing barbell curls, hammer curls, a lot of free weights, mostly free weights.
Did you do pullovers at all?
Very few. I did do pullovers, but I really, even then, instinctively, I'm going, why am I doing pullovers? Because it doesn't directly hit. It hits your inner lats, triceps, and some chest. They said it enlarges your chest. It doesn't enlarge your chest. Your bones are bones. The structure is there. It gives you more definition, and it's more like a shaping movement, I think, even though we have 100-pound dumbbell pullovers. But I didn't see the benefits because everything we did was dead on. Biceps means biceps, shoulder to shoulders, separating all the muscle groups. So I did do it because everyone else was doing it. Arnold was doing it. There's the thing to do. Do your pullovers. My chest didn't grow from the bench press. So Robbie said to me, you're going to do dips, dumbbell flies, dumbbell press, and that's all you're going to do. And I did it for about a year. My chest actually grew. Genetically, my chest did not respond from bench pressing. And I never benched heavy. I was never good on the bench. I was very good at pulling, like deadlifts, heavy 400 pounds for reps, but pushing, not very good at pushing. So you got to find what's good for you, what works for you, how your body function. Training with him is very similar because he did a lot of power moves, a lot of compound movements. The deads, squats, T-bar rows, a lot, and superset that with pull-ups, chin-ups. So it was like back to back, really nonstop. And prior to a show, you increase the reps, of course, from 10 you probably go to 15 reps, but the intensity is still there. This is how you get this crazy hard rock chisel look when you just push yourself like that. I mean, you leave the gym dragging out of the gym. Guess what? 5 o'clock, you're back at the gym the same day. So it's twice a day for year in and year out, twice a day. There was no off season.
I think you called it being in the zone.
Yes,
Right?
you go into that zone. And I get into the zone before I get to the gym. So when I get to the gym, I'm not talking, I go straight to the weights because I know exactly what I need to do. And it's very serious. It's not easy. I see guys come in, got the phone and this, and even in those days too, it's like, why are you here? You're here to work. And I'm used to work, so let's work. And Robbie thought I was one of the best training partners he had because I would never quit. I would match him set for set, and my endurance was pretty good growing up. So, and this is the pattern that I've used even to now. I'm doing as much as I can now, not as much. But yeah, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. Robin would hit a pose, and his back looked like it was just carved out of stone. It's like chiseled. I was doing training with him one day. He's deadlifting 500 pounds in front of me, and I go, "Oh my God!" And he goes, "I go, Robbie, I want your back." He goes, "No, I want your legs." So my legs were really, really cut. I was known for my legs. Ghost Gym and the Weeder magazine. That's all you had. So we had tourists coming from all over the world to Santa Monica to see Ghost Gym and meet the pros, in person. And the manager, the owner of the gym, Ken Spragues at the time, he would bring them over to me and says, "Tony, drop the pants," because to show them my legs. And they were like, oh, the mouths are like this. Oh my God! So it's part of the genetics, and the other part is hard work. If you don't have the structure, you have to work harder. You know what I mean? You can't body structure, the small hips, the small waist. This was ideal bodybuilding in the 70s and 80s. Is the broad shoulders, small waist, small hips, and really cut, and a great performance, presentation. There's so many things you had to work on before you go on stage. So it's changed quite a bit these days.
Did you train with Serge Nubret because you spent some time with him in Europe and your training style seemed very similar?
Yes, I lived at his house in France, in Paris, where the gym was downstairs. And he was upstairs. So yeah, I did. I took a lot. He would train 3 times a day, and lots of reps. But fairly lightweight. But this guy was just amazing. He was just a piece of artwork. That's art. His abs and his shoulder and his waist and just the way he hit the poses, the striations, striations on top of striations. I learned a lot from him. I mean, like I said, so many people helped me along the way. He said, "You want to come to Paris and train in my gym?" And I go, "Yes." Who doesn't want to go to Paris? And so, yeah, that was really good. I won the Wobble World there. Yeah, very similar style of training. I mean, I copied their style of training because it wasn't extremely heavy. You train heavy sometimes. For all these young people out there, I see Instagram and all these things now. They train heavy, 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 heavy. And what's going to happen is you're going to hit the wall, you're going to injure yourself, or you're going to burn out. This is what's going to happen. You're not going to have a 20-year career. I lasted for 20 years. But you got to know, and Robbie taught me, you go light, moderate to heavy. And this is how you cycle yourself to make it through the year. Because I would watch him sometime using light weights. And why is he using light weights today? And then he educated me about this. And then the mind to muscle connection, which is very, very important. You don't just go through the motion, pick up the weight, and you hope for the best. You have to connect to the muscle. And the most difficult body part to work is your back. You can't see it. But now in back, you have to train fairly heavy and intense because there's a lot of muscles there. And you want to fully develop, like not just wide, but thick at the same time. There's a lot of T-bar rows, heavy T-bar rows, one-arm dumbbell rows, deadlifts, pull-ups. Anything's going to thicken that hyperextension with plates. Anything's going to thicken that back. To me, for bodybuilding, the best body part, the most beautiful body part is your back because it's just sculpted. But that's hard work.
Yeah. Your back was particularly perfection. So, everyone loved you for your lat spread, which is why you were called the Jet Man back in the day. So, yeah. If I could just move on to Andrew very quickly, because I'm just conscious of both you guys' time. Like Tony was just saying there, sculpting your physique, whether it's creating a winning physique or making a film, it's basically art. And what's left out is almost as important as what's actually included in the end. So was there any topics or scenes or people that you had to cut out?
I feel like I left out hundreds and hundreds of hours just because we had so much content. We shot over the course of, I believe, 2.5 years. And we traveled to the deep south. We went to LA. We were in Vegas, we were in St. Louis. There was just so much. And our interviews, they lasted an hour and a half, 2 hours sometimes. So there was just so much content. And then all of the photos and the archival things, we were dealing with hundreds of hours of footage, thousands and thousands of different media files. So yeah, there was a lot that got cut out. I think some of my favorite ones that didn't quite make the cut for this one was there was this one moment when we went to Memphis, and we actually visited the location where Tony went to elementary school. Well, for the days that he did go to school, and Auntie Betty would let him go to school. But we had discovered that the school had actually burned down years back, and so it no longer exists. We found the foundation of where it was, but the actual school is no longer there. And the only reason why we discovered that, this is the location of the school was there was a local right there kind of watching us film. And we talked to him, and we were like, hey, do you know what happened here? And he explained everything. And man, that little area is so tight knit that as soon as he opened up to us, we went to a different location. Suddenly we had like half of that little neighborhood just kind of watching us from afar. He had spread the word that we're here, we are filming something. And there was a fun moment where there was a basketball court over at the elementary school, and where I'm filming Tony walk up to the basketball court, and just like it was perfectly placed there. There is a basketball there in the grass. He picks it up, starts dribbling it, and I'm sorry, Tony, I'm gonna call you out here. Could not make a basket.
Hey,
But hey, you're not a basketball player. You're a bodybuilder,
right.
and you were a football player. No, wrestler. You were a
Wrestler.
wrestler
Yeah.
because
The
you
last time I played basketball, I was elementary school. The last time.
And so it was kind of funny because we spent some time just kind of seeing if we can get him to do a shot in the hoop. And
You should
it
have
just
faked. You should have faked the shot and filmed it.
so what we okay, so here's a little funny thing that we did in a very, very, very early cut. Is we had the shot of Tony shooting, and then one of my producers who was with me, Cameron, he just took the ball and he threw it, and he made it on the first shot, and I caught that shot. So in editing, we kind of cut those two together to make it look like Tony made the shot. It didn't make the whole thing, the cut or anything, but it was a funny little moment. Another really favorite moment was in that same area. There was the church in which Auntie Betty would take Tony, and right behind the church there is a cemetery. And so I remember Tony. We pulled him aside. We had this moment where there is just a full interview where I let him go. Whatever he needed to say, just say, and it was in the cemetery of this church. And there was a lot of good little bits in there. Unfortunately, by the time you know, we none of those quotes kind of fit the narrative when we were cutting it together. And thankfully, a lot of the stuff that we did get cut was said again at different points in the film. Things of like how you have to be driven. A lot of stuff at the very end of the film is essentially what was in that interview in the church cemetery. And but I felt like it was almost like a very intimate, nice moment that didn't necessarily make it into the film. And of course, there is so many things in LA that we didn't get to put into the film. Things there was some really fun stuff with Fabio and them working out. So that had to get cut down. That's still in the film, but there are some moments that we kind of had to get cut out. One oh In that same moment before the Fabio workout scene, we had a scene with Tony and Eric the trainer, where Tony would actually train Eric because Eric, Tony was literally the only trainer that Eric would let train him. And so that was a moment in the movie that unfortunately didn't make the cut. And you know, Eric was he's no longer with us, and he was one of our biggest cheerleaders. He opened up the gym for us and let us shoot whenever we wanted to shoot, and he was like our biggest advocate. And so unfortunately that little nice moment didn't make the film. We did actually cut that scene, and we gave it to his memorial, and so they actually played that little snippet at his memorial.
Yeah, that was tragic about Eric. And I just want to put it out there as well, Andrew, that if you ever want to come on at a later date, and I did the same thing with Mark Martinez with his film Dream Big, which Tony was also a part of. If you ever wanted to come back on and talk, show some of these deleted scenes and put a director's commentary over, or even have Tony on again, you could both discuss it. My viewers love seeing all those little outtakes. So that's definitely something that you could do in the future as a suggestion. And one thing I was really glad that you did tackle was, the elephant in the room about PED use, because a lot of bodybuilding documentaries just brush it under the carpet and don't discuss it. But you guys, again, like the bodybuilding topic, included it in there, but without it being gratuitous. But I just want to ask Tony, what was the true story about you guys with PEDs back then? A lot of people speculate saying that you guys used a lot, just as much as they use today. I know the drugs are different today, but can you speak to the topic about your personal use of that or what you saw around you?
Yeah, when I arrived at Gold's Gym and one in Santa Monica, because they moved from Venice to Santa Monica, and I was there every day, I could hear a few whispers about, steroids and this and that. But personally, I didn't take anything. I won Mr. America totally clean. It was a very kind of taboo situation. People didn't talk about it. You have to go to the library to read about it. So there's no conversation about it. Um, but you know, I'm sure they were using steroids for sure. How much? I don't think is that much, because I think they relied on their training. It wasn't just us training super hard; the whole gym was. And Tom Platz and Ron Toof and all these guys who are training just so intensely and so hard. You take the steroids, and from what I know, you cycle twice a year for about 8 weeks each time, and that's it. For the rest of the year, you're pretty much clean. But those 16 weeks, it's going to give you a boost, and I was afraid of it. I took the very smallest amount as I could take, because I said, I'm afraid I might get sick. What's going to happen to me? I'll just do the work. I'll just train twice a day. And but yes, I'm sure a lot of guys are taking steroids. Like today, I don't know. I don't know what they're taking today. We're very limited in what we had. There's a short list. Testosterone and Anabar and just Winstrol, and pretty much that's about it. It was just very simple stuff. Today, I don't know what the guys are doing. I just hope they're going to be safe. And, you have to let your body clear out and clean up. You just can't be on all the time. Um, I don't know. I was afraid of it. I lived in fear of that, because I said one day my career is going to end and everyone's going to forget about me. Exactly what happens. This is like, out with the old, in with the new. So one day, after 20 years, I walked away, and I still have my health, thank God. And most of the guys still do. I mean, Frank Zane is good, Arnold's good. All these guys are great. Still,
We lost Carl Weathers today, I see.
yes, I know. That's crushing for me because we went to see Rocky, the movie, the first one. The whole gym did. So we're sitting in the theater and watching Rocky, and then the next day at Gold's Gym, they blasted the music from Rocky, and that's what we would train on every day. So Carl Weathers, and he has a great physique, great actor. So yeah, that's a very sad, very very sad. Um, I don't know what much to say about the guys. I'm pretty sure they took steroids. Absolutely, you can't go on stage 100% clean. So everybody was doing something, trying to get the edge.
Yeah, and
But you just,
speaking of the deleted scenes, there is so much on steroids, in our interviews that we cut because it's not a documentary about drug use and steroids. It's definitely a topic that we had to address, but it's not the main focus. So, but there was a lot that I did learn about steroids, especially about how yes, people use it, and there are kind of like the safe ways to go about it. And you're right, Tony. There are the moments where it's like if you don't give your body the rest, then it's kind of like it's like drinking a Monster Energy drink every single time and just never going to sleep. It's not gonna do good for your body.
yeah, I mean, you're going to pay. You're going to pay. There's a price to pay. And we've lost quite a few bodybuilders. That's a fact. And, even in those days, it's like I'll do whatever it takes to win. I mean, you're just that driven, whatever it takes. And I did the same thing. I'm just going to do it the hard way. I'm just going to train, just trying to improve my body that way. Um, I wasn't raised that way. You do your work. You don't take drugs. You don't take a shortcut. You don't take the easy way. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know. The guys, they survived. They're doing good. Most of these guys are doing great. Like I said, I hope these guys today are being very cautious and really think about it. To have that trophy. Okay, you got the trophy, and now you got medical issues behind that. So, is it really worth it? Of course, did I want to win Mr. Olympia? Of course, I wanted to win Mr. Olympia, but I said no. I'm gonna bow out, and that's it. I'm not gonna go down that road. So, people always say, "Oh, you take drugs, you take steroids." No, I train, I do the work. Drugs doesn't make you a great champion. You're limited. Most guys' career lasts maybe 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years max. Try 20 years, try 30 years. So those are the real champions. I mean, Frank Zane is still going, Robbie's still going, Bill Grant's still training every day. So
Yeah, and it's a credit to you that when you did your last contest, you did it natural and drug tested, and as you say, Bill Grant still looks fantastic, and so do you. But a lot of these big steroid using guys burn out very quickly. One of the big questions that a lot of my viewers had, and this is a two-parter, Tony, because the film never covered this, and neither did the book, but it's understandable why. But can you talk about your experiences in the WBF some more? Everybody wants to know about that, and also, was Vince McMahon a better boss than Joe Weider?
okay. So yeah, okay, here we go. I was my career was kind of winding down, if you know what I mean, after the 20 years. I'm sitting in Germany, hanging out with friends at the gym and not doing very much. The exhibition's not coming in as much. And I get this phone call from Tom Platz. And he said, Vince McMahon is starting a new federation, the World Bodybuilding Federation. And we're looking for performance with charisma that can pose and say, are you interested? Of course I'm interested. Where am I going to go? So I flew to New York. We went to the Plaza Hotel and met Vince McMahon, and they signed me up. So that's where it started. And then, because of Vince, you have a character name. Everything's a character, the music. So I was the Jet Man, and Aaron Baker was the Dark Angel. We all had different names. So the Jet Man, and we would train, you know, twice a day, and whatever Vince told us to do, we did, because Vince was a very serious guy. It was like, you do your job, I do my job, and I pay you, and you be in shape. He was like that. He was no nonsense, but I'm used to that. That's how I was raised. I did my job. And then it got to the point where it says, okay, because he had a lot of issues with steroids. And so we became drug tested. They'll call you overnight, be at the lab. You got 2 hours to get there. So I passed all the tests, no drugs. And it was a lot. It was fun because we would go to all the wrestling matches. I hung out with the wrestlers, and all the people in the stadium, the crowd was learning our names. Oh my God, the Jet Man, the Dark Angel, the Iron Warrior, Mike Christian. And Tom Platz was the guy who was, recruiting these guys. And thanks to Tom Platz, that was a big move he made. He says, "Well, we know you know how to pose. You're going to be on stage. You're going to be in shape. We know that." So that was a fun 2 years. I stayed for the third year because I was promoting his products, Ico Pro products, and I hit every GNC store in America. That was my job for the fall. So 3 years I was with Vince McMahon. He was a great guy. Like I said, he was a very serious guy. He didn't have time to chit chat and play around, and he was running a corporation. But I remember the day he said, "Guys, we need to have a meeting." After 2 years, and like, oh no, what's going on? I'm gonna have to let you guys go, because if I don't, I'm gonna lose the whole empire, because he was having some serious issues about steroids or something, and that's how it all ended. But we had our own television show on Saturday mornings. We had a magazine out, pictures everywhere, and the limousines everywhere we had to go, and it was fun. It was a nice ride for 2.5 years.
And it was interesting because it challenged the Weider empire there for a while and presented bodybuilding in a different way. He obviously tried to align it with the presentation of wrestling, and that's where it fell a little bit short with audiences who just appreciated the hardcore aspects of bodybuilding.
So most of his show was about entertaining. We had to create your own music. I had the Jet Man rap. I had my own music, so and all the guys had their own stunts. David Durst came out with the guitar and is shooting fire. It was a lot of entertainment. But yeah, it was some serious bodybuilding as well. Vince liked the sport. He's always in great shape. He's wrestling. He's well built. So he just was fascinated with bodybuilders, and all the wrestlers too. I mean, I hung out with these guys. They all lift weights. They're 100% like The Rock. He lifts weights because the wrestlers want to look the way we look. If you stand in the ring, it's great physique. You're really cut. That was the goal. So it was fun. It was sad that it ended. Yes, it was a nice ride. Then back to reality.
Speaking of performances, one of the things that I've seen watching your appearances over the years and on the film of Driven is how well you translate to the camera. Why didn't you actually ever pursue acting, Tony? Because you were perfect for the screen.
Yeah,
I
why? I'm
appreciate
really
that.
interested in this one because we've told this guy the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I narrated the documentary. I go, I can't narrate. And I go, just let me ramble. He goes, go ahead, start rambling. So I walk my through, just talking about my life story. But Cameron said the same thing. You on camera, you look really natural, just like normal. I don't know. I did. I'm in the Screen Actors Guild, and I did some extra work in Hollywood. So, but I'm not a real actor. I got to be honest with myself. I don't know if I can act. And because when you go on auditions, what they did, you walk into the room and they give you lines, you read, and they go next, because they are professionals and they can tell you have the it or not. and I realized I don't have the it. I'm not an actor. I'm too serious.
The it is just sets and reps at the end of the day. You know this. It didn't work out for Arnold with his first few movies, but he developed a good acting style.
True. But I think you need somebody behind you. Arnold just didn't walk through doors by himself. He had somebody that's making the right phone call to the right people, the right connections. So
Yeah.
you don't just walk in Hollywood, just walk right in. I'm here. No. No. So I did some extra work, which was really fun. I hung a lot of the movie sets and met a lot of Hollywood stars, and so I kind of lived the Hollywood life there for a while. I did. I had a condo in Hollywood, so I know what it's like. I know it was fun. And then, yes, I did want it, but I said I'm not a real actor. I was sitting in a restaurant, and this guy, Mike Tyson, was doing a Mike Tyson movie back in 1994, 95. And I had at the jury care with the Michael Jackson thing, but I kind of looked like, a real bodybuilding. Guy comes over to me, he says, "Are you an actor?" And this guy was serious. I could tell. That was my moment, and I had to be truthful and say, "No, I'm not an actor," because he was like a producer, a director, and he saw what he wanted, and I go, I can't go on and read the script and no. I said, no, I'm not an actor. I can do one lines or two lines, I can have a good presence with the camera on me. But to come up with a real, like a Denzel Washington or all these guys are real actors, that's not who I am. But I enjoy doing extra work, which is a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people.
Tony translates so well on camera, especially in the documentary, is because he's doing the thing that actors actually are trained to do, which is not act. Don't act. Actually, just be. And that's exactly what Tony was. He was only himself. And usually, when you put a camera on somebody who is not typically used to it, they start putting on a face. They start, trying to present their best self because they don't want to look like a fool on camera. But Tony was completely vulnerable. He was completely open. He was that's why it translates so well. And I think the best example is when we were in the cotton fields, and that is one of the more dramatic moments of the film. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, Tony, I just need you. I'm gonna follow you, and all you do is reflect upon everything that has happened here in this field. That's it. Speak out loud, feel, but just let go, let loose. And that's exactly what you see in the film was completely 100% real. And there are some moments of this film that it feels like it's scripted, and yet it's not. It's literally me with a camera, a very, very tiny crew. Sometimes it was just me being there, just capturing that moment and letting life live out.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a rare kind of authenticity that translates so well to the screen. And I think it's Hollywood's loss. And I think you're too humble, Tony, because you definitely have the chops, as Andrew was referring to there. You were the pivotal driving force behind Mixed Pairs, everybody thinks.
I appreciate that, and it was by accident. Once again, I got the part. Wayne D'Amelio, who's the vice president of IDV, and he called me. I was at the airport. He called me one time. He goes, "I know you posed with Lisa Lyon, and you guys at the LA contest in '79, but I want you to compete with Shelley Gruel. She lives in Fresno, and we need one more couple." I said, "Okay." So I packed my bags and moved to Fresno for a while. And Shelley Gruel and I won the first. We won two 1982, 1983. We won the Mixed Pairs, and then I switched to another. I had four different partners: Carla Dunlap, Miss Olympia. We won two, and Tina Plackinger, and then Juliet. We won. So we won 6 out of 7 times.
Somebody asked in my comments, what happened to Juliet Bergman? Where is she now?
She lives in Thailand. She's from Holland, but she's half Thai. So she's doing good. I follow her on IG, and we're about the same age. She's a little bit younger. It was so funny. We came out to guest post in 2010 at her show, and he goes, "Yeah, she's 50." And I was 53 at the time. She's like 52. But we posed together, and we looked pretty good. We captured what we had from 1996 until then. So, but she's doing okay. She's doing great. Um, mixed pairs is a really big thing, and I just wish they would bring that back. Like ice skating or something, very similar. But the body types have to match, and the height and the size, the transition from pose to pose. Of course, you have to have great conditioning. People don't want to do mixed pairs because it's too much work. I remember asking Rachel McLish to be my partner. She goes, "Thanks for the offer. I can hardly remember my own routine." She goes, so because when you pose with someone, you have to really be on point. If you make one mistake, everyone sees it. If you turn your head or your hand, or you move too fast, or you're not close enough as you pose together, and you have to look like one together. And the height means a lot too. And of course, in the music, everything has to work together. And I guess we were lucky or fortunate to always come up with the right music and always pick the right. I watched Juliet on stage, and I go, "That's my next partner." Tiny waist, broad shoulders, 5'3", 5'4". I go, and she agreed. She says, "Yes, okay, I'll pose with you." She says, "I'm not a great poser." So I pretty much had to put together the routine. Training with Carla Dunlap, she's an ex-swimmer, a synchronized swimmer. So she did a lot of the work for the routine. And then the first routine that I had, Shelley was a gymnast, so that helped a lot too. Um, I was not a great poser. George Turner wanted me to do a contest, the first one ever, Mr. St. Louis, and he says, "Pose for me." And I threw up my arms. He goes, "My grandmother can pose better than that." So that's how I started out. I go on stage, I'm terrified, house is full, and I'm just shaking like a leaf. But that inspired me. I really liked the idea of being on stage, and I started practicing my posing. I started working. This guy named Jimmy Caruso, he passed recently. If you see a lot of old pictures of Arnold, says Jimmy Caruso, photographer.
Yes.
So he taught me about posing, but he gave me a 4-hour posing session one day. I was in Canada, and I learned so much from that man. Where your hands, your knees, and your hips, and this and that, to make yourself look bigger, and you hide all your flaws, and your transition, and your expression, and your body language, all those things. So it was quite interesting. But you always practice your posing. So after 18 years, to go back to that, I forgot how to pose. For 18 years, I didn't pose. And I go, I can't remember how to pose. But it comes back really quick. But a year before that, I went to Germany. I'm sitting in Germany, and I went to a show, which I haven't been in many years, and I'm looking on stage, and I said, "Man, I would never be on that stage again," because I was, 15 pounds overweight, and those lights were bright. I said, "Never will I be on that stage again." Within 1 year, I'm back on that stage after 18 years. Life is just weird. You always think you have the master plan, but you don't. It all happened for a reason. So if I didn't go to Germany to get in shape, which I think that was the purpose of me going there, I went over for some vitamin cum. It didn't work out. But now I'm stuck in Germany. I got in shape, 3% body fat. I was such great shape. My friend here in Vegas sent me a text on Facebook. He goes, "You need to back off, go eat something. You've gone too far." Because when you're training like that, you can't see yourself. All you want is more. And 3% body fat, you're near death. But he was right. He was right. I started eating a little bit more, filled up a little bit more. The cuts came in sharper. So if I didn't get in shape in Germany to come back to America, there wouldn't be a documentary because I was fat and I had no idea or reason to get in shape. So that all happens for a reason. I went all the way around the world. I went to Miami, Germany, Vegas, and then I said, "Okay, I want to compete. I want to compete." I went to see Doug Brignoli. He passed too. You know who that is?
Yeah.
So I went 20, was it 20, 19. I said, I'm going to watch the show. Okay. So I'm sitting there, and Doug comes on stage. He looks amazing. Of course, he wins the show. But I said to myself, I think I can beat him. You know how we are, we're competitive. So I came home and I got a text the same night. The promoter said, "You want to compete next year?" I said, yes. So now 2020 comes around and pandemic hits. All the gyms shut down. But I made a commitment. I said yes. I stayed on track. There was no gym. I would do lunges in the park. I would do pull-ups. There was a couple pull-up bars. And I did what push-ups, whatever I needed to do just to stay lean, stay cut, stay on the program. When the gyms reopened, I start training again, got in top form, and did the show. Well, barely did the show, all the pain I was in. But yeah, so once I commit, I commit. And but to come back, and I think the whole trip to Germany was just to get in shape. I questioned myself, why was it 2 years over there doing what? And posing with Juliet was fun. To be on stage with her again. We did it to Prince once again, the Purple Rain thing. So, um, bodybuilding is a lot of fun. I enjoy because you're a performer. It's an art form. You are the art. You create your own art because I have a vision of how I want to look before I look that way prior to a show. And whatever it takes for me to get to that look, that's what I got to do. So training twice a day, starving, super high protein, low carbs, day in, day out, train, like I said, twice a day, and you don't miss a day. For 17 weeks I went, I never missed a day training, never. Because I said to myself, you're risking your whole career every time you come back on stage. If you're off, those pictures will be on social media before you get off stage. So I said, make sure you're 100% conditioned, 100%. There's no excuses. And, just get through it. And it was drug tested too. So I had no concerns about that. So it was fun. It was fun to come back for the last time. And just, it was a blessing that, I got in shape and Andrew came out and filmed it. And I said, right? Trust me, I had no intentions of ever going on stage again.
If I could add something to the entertainment aspect there, we couldn't really show it in the film just because of music licensing rights, but when Tony walked out on that stage, it was set to the tune of Michael Jackson, "Dirty Diana," and once he started going into his routine to the music, I swear it clicked in my head. Like I felt like I was transported back in time. I was in the 70s. I understood why this is entertaining. Why people love this sport so much. It was just a magical moment and I was just capturing it. And so unfortunately, I really wish we could have used like a Michael Jackson song in the film, but it really was a magical moment when I was shooting his final pose.
Back in the 70s, really quick, bodybuilding was such new. When I got to California, it was like brand new. It was like a new toy. There's so much excitement about the sport. And coming from St. Louis to California, Venice, California, like, oh my God. Like I said, people from around the world would come down to Gold's Gym just to see us live in person, to get an autograph, to take a picture. The energy, you go to a show, you get a standing ovation. When I posed around the world, I had encore, more. I leave the stage, more. I mean, this happened all the time. They're on their feet chanting this. It was just so much energy. It was amazing. I mean, now we're used to it, and we got social media. There was no social media. It was just the magazine and the guys on stage, and you got to see him live. Oh my God, you know what I mean? That's why everybody went to Gold's Gym. If you want to be a champion, all the Europeans came to Gold's Gym. From the East Coast, Gold's Gym, Santa Monica. You could just feel the energy.
And that's part of the magic that's been lost.
Yes.
I went to the Mr. Olympia a few times in the last decade or so, and it was crickets. You could hear a pin drop. The audience are on their phone while the guys are on stage, and it just lacked that audience engagement and applause that you guys received in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So that's definitely a huge element. It's just been saturated now, and that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Andrew, as a bodybuilding fan, and I'm sure the community as well, are very grateful for your involvement in this film, because it's because of guys like yourself who keep the stories and the legends of the guys that came before us alive. But I'd just like to know, what's next for you in terms of other film projects?
Well, it's funny that you should ask. In a few weeks, another film that I produced is actually going to be dropping on Amazon Prime. It's called This Sucks. That's the actual film title, This Sucks. It's an indie film. It's not a documentary. It's an actual film. And it's about roommates during the pandemic, and they have a little demon that's personified of like their depression. And so it's how I like to call it of a film of how do we deal with our demons, literally. And so it's called This Sucks. It's going to be out in a few weeks here on Amazon Prime, hopefully Tubi and all those other streaming platforms as well.
Great to hear. And Tony, we'll just end with you. What drives Tony Pearson these days? Like, what's driving you to climb that next mountain in life?
Just being motivated. I like to be busy. I always got to have something working on, doing this or doing that. I'm a personal trainer, so I train a lot of clients, and I still train myself. I'd like to write another book. I don't know what I'm gonna write about, but
Ooh, there you go. You just got an exclusive right here.
yeah. So
Excellent.
I want, that's something I would like to do. Probably about fitness and nutrition, how to work out, like give the secrets away. We have a lot of secrets from the old guys that I learned along the way. So, and how I train.
And what people want to see, particularly these days, is for so much interest in the golden era, is they want to see the little stories and the little anecdotes that no one's heard before. So if you make a fitness book, it would be great to drop all these little stories about what Robbie did this then, and what Ed Connor say to you on this day, etc. That would be great.
Yeah. Bill Grant, and a lot of interaction with a lot of people. So I got a lot of things, a lot of stories to tell.
I'll proofread it for you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm an ex high school English teacher, so I've got my editing chops honed.
Oh, great. So I'm gonna load. If I do write one, I'm gonna load it up with a lot of pictures. I have a lot of pictures to put in there.
It's true. I have an archive right now of thousands of photos.
So
I want to thank you both for coming on and giving us the time today, because as I said, my audience loves to hear the story, so they'll greatly appreciate this interview. Is there anything else that you would like to promote moving forward? We've got Andrew's next film. I encourage everybody out there to go get the print version of Driven, obviously, and the audiobook version. Check out the film. That's on Amazon. So can you give us the locations of the film? I'll put it in the descriptions as well.
Yeah, it's on Amazon, Apple TV, Google Play, wherever really you get your digital movies. Driven will be there.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you'd like to add as well, Tony?
Yeah, my book is on Amazon, and the documentary and the audiobook is on Amazon and Apple TV, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so if you just search Driven Tony Pearson on Amazon, both the movie and the book are going to show up.
Pop up. Yeah, so yeah, please read this. There's so much more in that book. Oh my God, this is crazy stuff.
I'll be ordering it as soon as I get off the call, because like I said, I thought it ended at a peak, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice to end it there. But as you said, the print version, God knows what happened with that Kindle version. Right. I should ask for a refund.
An Australian version, I guess.
Oh my God,
that's strange.
Because I saw the question, I'm going, no, we did the whole thing. I put everything in there. Everything is timing too, because I wanted to write a book like 20 years ago, and a friend of mine says, oh, why would you want to do that? Everyone has a story to tell. So I was discouraged. I said, okay, I won't. But the timing was right to write it when I did. That was
100%.
So
we needed it. Yeah. Especially post-pandemic, when everybody's motivations were down and people had dropped out of the gym. To have your story come out then was, like you said, again, one of those serendipitous moments in time that just seems to follow you everywhere. And I think it also speaks to your level of positivity that you attract these lucky and serendipitous moments as well. So again, there's even lessons there that not only just about being driven, that goes above being motivated, but how to attract positivity into your life just by having a great attitude like you've shown.
I appreciate it. You know, my book is more of an inspirational book for, you know, teenagers or adults who haven't dealt with their issues growing up. I mean, I was, 60 some years old before I decided to tell my story. So there's a lot of adults have a lot of issues, childhood issues. And in this country, suicide rate is very high for teenagers, and they're turning to drugs and crime because they're trying to find an escape. They need help, and no one's listening to them. So this is why I kind of wrote the book. I said it's healing for me as well, but if I could help some other people, that would be a good thing too. So that's why I said I'm going to put it. It was scary to push that button to put it out there, so because the feedback, you don't know what you're going to get. But you take that.
We're greatly appreciative that you did.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Andrew, before we go?
Watch Driven. Make sure to leave a review on whatever platform you actually you watch it on, and yeah, stay driven. Be motivated.
That's great. I'll keep banging the drum for my audience as well, because sometimes I found out you've got to tell people 100 times about things, and then they come back the 99th time, they go, oh, does Tony still have a book, or is there a film called Driven? And it's just like, what have you
where have you been?
So I just keep putting it out there. It's the same with Get Big, with Mark's movie. I just like to keep reminding people, because I still get people saying, oh, what do you mean there's a new film out? It's just like, oh my Lord. It's like going back to my teaching days. You tell the class 100 times, and then they still get those kids to say, "What's this?"
I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
I got the same problem. I tell people all the time, "Where can I find it?" You know where to find it.
It's a struggle.
Yeah.
It's a struggle, but you got to stay driven. Also, hopefully, I can come back and share some of the non-release stuff, things that didn't make the actual cut to the film. Because there is a ton of stuff, maybe some bloopers, some Tony missing some basketball shots.
Hey.
But let's definitely do that and find a time, because again, it gets people interested in the film, and those are the little quirks that people love to see at the end of the day. So definitely come back on.
Awesome.
Michael Jordan's got nothing on me.
Michael Jordan of bodybuilding.
So that was my Muhammad Ali practice of the day, the greatest of all time.
Just want to thank you guys again for your time. Appreciate it. And again, let's do it again sometime.